bodies in. So this is the first show I've done. First of all, it's the first show I've done since I lost all my paintings in a fire. And for a while after the fire, I felt like I just spent 30 years doing a lot of work that had been turned into ash overnight. And I thought, oh, is there any point doing any more paintings? And then after I'd gone through my sort of process of grieving for my work, I got quite excited about making an entirely new show and starting again. And it kind of coincided with a big retrospective we did last year at Studio Voltaire and the ICA, which was about the Neo Naturists, which was a group I set up in 1980, and we did performances wearing body paint, which were centered around rituals, and I mean it was a lot of fun, and then there was ritual thrown in, and it was a lot to do with sort of questioning people's attitudes to bodies in the early 80s and their attitudes to nudity, because I was at St Martin's College of Art at the time, and I felt like there was nudity that was okay in the life room as long as the model never talked and was just kind of seen like as an object. And then you went out into Soho, and women's bodies were obviously objectified in a totally different way. So for us, it was a whole thing of taking the decision to be naked women back into our own hands, and also making these really beautiful paintings on bodies rather than making them on canvases, and always making sure we used paint that was archival and would still be there in like 300 years when we were dead. And you know, it was a kind of more spontaneous way of presenting paintings as well. So it wasn't just nudity, it was paintings as well. So last year we were asked to do a retrospective at Studio Voltaire. And at first we thought we might just put all our old photos and films and things on the wall, and we kind of questioned whether we wanted to basically strip off again and wear body paint. And in the end, I decided that it was really important to do that. Firstly, because when I looked at the attitudes that we were reacting against, I felt like a lot of them were still there. And secondly, because I thought it was actually really important to do that, because we'd done it when we were in our 20s, and I felt like not to do it because I was now in my 50s would be kind of like buying into that whole idea of older women being kind of seen and not heard or whatever. So I got quite excited about doing the body painting again, and I realised I'd never used it in my paintings. I thought this is a kind of huge amount of inspiration and material that, although I painted people and I'd made these paintings and I'd photographed them, and alongside that I'd always made different paintings, I never actually painted the Neo Naturists. So I've had a really good time kind of remembering these moments that stuck in my head, and I kind of think of them almost as if they were a set of Polaroids or something, just these kind of instants caught in time of our most sort of just our most memorable performances. So that's where the whole show comes from, and I think it's also, we kind of got quite obsessed last summer with this statement made by the Guerrilla Girls in New York, saying, does a woman have to be naked to get into the Met? And we kind of asking, like, are we doing that? Are we being naked to get into museums? And I felt like, as a woman, I had a complete right to paint naked women. I felt like, you know, I am essentially a naked woman. This is, you know, the thing that's wrong with it is not that the women are naked, it's that they're objectified and, you know, historically painted by men while they didn't have a chance to do the painting. So that's kind of, you know, what was behind the show, and just kind of having felt quite upset about only having like 6 paintings left after all that. It was just a kind of expression of like, yeah, I can put some colour back into, you know, I can start using colour again, I can make new stuff. So it was about that as well. So I'm just going to tell a few just little stories about what each painting's about, just to give you an example of where the inspiration came from. So yeah, that was a performance we did in Wapping. We did a week-long live-in performance in the V2 gallery, which is on the river in Wapping. And that was kind of influenced by just hitchhiking to Scotland on a whim after a party one night and getting quite obsessed with Scotland. So when we came home and we'd been asked to do a performance, we went, yeah, let's do Macbeth. If anyone's ever seen anything of our performances, you realise that we never rehearsed, so there was no way we were going to learn Macbeth. So this was the 5-minute version of Macbeth. So we picked some thistles from by the riverbanks and we drank a lot of whiskey and put on the tartan paint. And then I kind of slightly used a bit of poetic license because Wapping is not always quite as beautiful as that. So that's 5-minute Macbeth. The ones with the mermaid figures were to do with it's a sort of slightly cult 70s anthropology book which is called The Descent of Woman, and it's about how we really started off as mermaids, which appealed to me because I was one of those little girls that people used to say, what are you going to do when you grow up? And I'd go, be a mermaid? I think I still believe that. So that's why this mermaid body paint was quite a kind of theme that we quite often used. We'd actually semi-tape our legs together so we could walk. That, just to give me an idea of what it would be like when I finally did become a mermaid. Then that was my first private view in London. That was in King's Road in 1985 at James Birch Gallery, who promoted us all. Oh yeah! So that was, we would just come to private views with the go, well, what should I wear? It was a bit like, I've got nothing to wear. I know, I'll just paint on this dress tonight. So that's got some of the, I sort of recreated some of the paintings that burnt behind me as well. So it was kind of like, this one's quite funny because I left the Neo Naturist in 1987 and I went to live in Mexico and then in Ireland in a fishing village. And some weird review came out, like years and years after we'd done a performance at the Royal Opera House, saying how shocking it is that public funds had been put into things like the Neo Naturist. And I was sitting on this beach on the west coast of Ireland thinking, wow, I can't believe people are still angry about what I used to do. And my husband used to kind of come home with these crabs and lobsters and things and go fishing. And I thought, wow, that's really funny. There was a time when these would have been part of a cabaret, and now I'm making them into dinner for my kids. And it was a kind of like, wow, was I really that person who would do a thing like wear body paint? So, which I am again now, but probably wasn't at that point. So that one's called Ballydown Flashback. And this was one of our best and really spontaneous performances that we've been in at St Martin's. I painted this image on my friend and we'd done some photos on the roof, and we were like, wait, isn't it kind of a bit of a waste to wash this off without doing something more with it? And we used to love going to the British Museum, and I made these floor-length fur fabric coats that we kind of wrap up in when we were on our way to performances. So we just went up to the British Museum and I'd go, okay, get my camera all ready, 1, 2, 3, and she'd flash, and I took the photos. And we're never sure if anyone had saw us do it, but that image is one of our favourite ones. And this one is the performance we did at the ICA last year, which was, there's 3 images of it, in fact. It was quite funny because we decided that we would body print the walls of the studio, which was great, but there weren't that many people there. There were people who worked in the gallery, and then we obviously looked quite weird when we went down to the pub with bits of paint. But at some point, I found myself having a meeting about stage lighting at the ICA, and I was like, hey, when did we decide to actually do a performance? And I don't think we ever did. I think it just became the natural thing to do. I had to put myself back into the position of recreating a performance that I hadn't done for about 30 years. So we went down, a lot of our stuff was influenced partly by London and partly by Sussex, and my friends who lived on the South Downs. So we decided it was a harvest thing, and we created the performance sitting in the cornfields naked, because we thought that's the way we were going to get inspired. And then I had this idea, it was about abundance. So I said, well, look, what we're going to do is we're going to get a lot of kind of bling jewellery. It's all going to be gold, but it's all going to be worthless because I'm going to pick it up in second-hand shops. So I thought this is my favourite one. It's the only one I kept. And I like this because the cabaret was about birth and rebirth. No, I keep saying that, death and rebirth. So that's why I'm wearing this, so everyone can see they are actually self-portraits. And yeah, that was a fun cabaret we did, which was inspired by a road trip to Bavaria and just the sort of kitsch idea of lederhosen. We had a soundtrack of the Little Angels of Korea singing "I Like to Go Wandering." Obviously beer was a bit of an influence too. I think it might have been influenced, actually one of the first clubs along with the Blitz was called the Samorit's Club, and I think we sort of felt that whole kind of Alpine thing. So yeah, that's about, those were just early experiments. That's how we used to go out. I mean, the body painting in a way started, everybody would wear more and more outrageous clothes. Like I remember we were getting ready, my friend Christine lived in a squat with people like Boy George, and we'd all get dressed together and go, oh, this is outrageous, shall I wear this? Would you dare me to wear this? And then one day we were kind of like, yeah, well, would you dare us to wear like nothing? And we just painted ourselves and went down to one of Steve Stranger's clubs like that. So that's the sort of, there's actually a tiny little picture of us doing a performance by Christine there, and that's a photo. So that's, you know, I just wanted to explain, oh, I haven't quite finished, because I've got the Guinness series, which was another one from, oh yeah, one more. Which was that was another one from our show at, oh no, okay, that started off, that was another one from our show at the B2 Gallery, and this day was called the Words of Gummidge Day, and by that time it was getting to be a bit of a stress living in this gallery with 15 slightly prima donna-ish people, and a lot of them had just left on this day, and we were left with Bruce Lacey, who was one of our big inspirations, and no money because the gallery owner had enough and disappeared. So all we had was 3 pints of Guinness from Prospect of Whitby, because the guys there loved us, and I don't think it was much to do with performance art. And we were told by the police that the only place we were allowed to perform was between the high and low tide lines, because that was kind of no man's land, and the river police could ignore us and the land police could ignore us. So it was kind of a misty day, and we found ourselves sort of burning these bones, which was all we could afford from the supermarket, that was our barbecue, and drinking Guinness kind of on the shoreline. So then I got carried away and I did a different body paint, which I did at Studio Voltaire. So that's kind of a mix of the past and present, that one. But I think Guinness was always, yeah, Guinness. I love painting Guinness as well as drinking it. Yeah, and that's the final two. That's called Lunch Break at Studio Voltaire, because one of the things that was really fun when we were doing the body painting again was just that feeling of how strange everything looked when you did something normal, like sat down and had a picnic, and then you looked down and your legs were kind of gold, and it sort of felt like that was part of the performance, was just the sort of private moments when we were kind of sitting around. Obviously, the lobster was probably just a pack of those fish sticks. And then the final one is just, I actually live on a naturist beach in Biarritz now, so I kind of got home and, oh, this is all completely different. And I was like, well, it's not that different really, is it? It's a walk down the beach, although I don't have the tattoos yet. But yeah, so that's just to explain what the paintings are about. And it was kind of also the idea of exploring the kind of line between what's part of the painting and what I'm actually looking at, because I guess usually if you saw a painting of a green woman, you'd think it was the painting that was making her green, but in fact the subject were painted women as well, so it was a kind of nice, I quite liked the idea that some people didn't know that, but now I've told you more anyway. So yeah, it's just to explain a bit, but also just to see if there's anything that people wanted to know about the paintings that I haven't explained, or just about anything really. Oh, also, if you want to know any more, there's a book there called Surf Mama, which is all about, well, it's all about everything, it's about my life. And there's a different paperback version of that out as well, and a film hopefully next year. So, yeah, that's about it really.
Thank you, Wilma.
Thank you. Yeah, well, right.